Is that our cue? Sorry. So I'm Justin Corbell, if you can tell from the picture.
Brett Parsons.
So we're going to tag team this. Appreciate you all coming out. So yeah, we'll give a quick kind of overview of delivery solutions up to this point. We're going to talk a little bit about consumer expectations in this omnichannel world, and then we'll go into a little more detail about how our own solutions are solving this problem for some of the world's largest leading omnichannel retailers. So delivery solutions, we started back in 2017. So the original idea behind the business was aggregating same-day delivery. So really being the first company to market that was able to put an Uber next to a DoorDash next to a Lyft, who was actually doing deliveries at the time, as a way to really try to save retailers time about having multiple integrations to manage and then being able to orchestrate on top of that. So being able to really make smarter decisions about which provider, how do we optimize for lowest cost and all that. So fast forwarding to last year, we were acquired by UPS in May of 2022. So we have the benefit of a very large international company behind us, but we are still multi-carrier, carrier agnostic in that sense. And so our kind of mission and charter remains the same. But what this does give us access to is not being your traditional, tech startup in the sense that we can make some longer bets. And we're going to talk a little bit about the kind of position that we're in, which is unique in that how we're solving these problems for enterprise retailers and not having to be worried about, doing some of the wrong things or building some of the wrong features to have a short-sighted view of the market. So thinking about this at a high level, and really kind of starting with the consumer behavior, obviously Amazon and Target and Walmart have conditioned a lot of consumers to, multiple channels, right? Like I want my product however I want it, whenever I want it. It's got to be convenient. It's got to be fast. And the reality is not every retailer is Walmart, Target, or Amazon. And so with their investment in technology and the number of resources that they have, obviously they have some ability to kind of create new channels, but also to really maximize the value that they get to their shareholders through these, kind of optimized fulfillment modes. And so, sorry, I must have gone back. So when we look at what COVID did, right? It really accelerated a lot of retailers on this like digital transformation journey, right? So a lot of retailers really had to go to market faster. They had to offer more convenience options, and they had to do this really quick. And the kind of consumer mindset was already moving in that direction, but then again through COVID accelerating that. What is interesting now is that not only is it just expected, but the consumers are voting with their wallet, right? In the sense that, by seeing purchase increase. So just browsing on a website, there's a higher conversion rate just by offering same-day delivery, right? Like they don't even have to choose that as a channel. It just will increase your conversion rate by making that an option. And then you look at it from, the brick and mortar store locations, being able to leverage brick and mortar stores. We've seen, an increase in people that are shipping from store. So being able to leverage your physical store footprint as a mini fulfillment center. So being able to get those products and items closer to your consumer, but also being able to leverage some of the flexibility that comes from that. And so, 50% of consumers said that they're more likely to buy from someone where they have that option, right? Again, they still don't have to select it all the time, but just knowing that it's a convenience, they will, again, continue to reinforce and vote that with their wallet. So the challenge that we see, and we'll talk about this a little later, but it's very time consuming. It can be expensive from a resource standpoint, but then also the labor of constantly trying to anticipate the next move that the consumers are going to make, or the next fulfillment channel, the next thing that they need to be prepared for. So obviously, punchline there is that's actually where we help. So when we think about the market in general, right? So same-day delivery is growing 21% annual, year over year, the compounded annual growth rate. Buy online, pick up in store. We've seen an increase even in the grocery space for things like lockers, right? Where maybe I need to get my items after hours, or I need it to be so convenient that any method that I choose to get these orders is how I need it, right? So again, being able to support that becomes, even if it's a very small percentage of the customer base, that could still be a very valuable mode to offer to a customer, so that they continue to be loyal. Again, I won't read all of these, but again, just being able to buy from a retailer that offers things like same-day delivery, right? Like just again, there's a lot of supporting data that even offering all of these different modes can be very valuable. So the challenge, right? So what's actually happening in the enterprise retail space is that there are limited resources, there are competing priorities, and a lot of times it just comes down to bandwidth, right? Like, what are the things that we can support, from marketing to e-commerce to supply chain, logistics. Everyone is competing, for those same resources. And when you start to look at, the margin pressure already, right? Like it makes it even harder to get items or these kind of projects live. And so as the retailer has started to stand up some of these channels, right? Like they'll, start doing ship from store, and then they might start offering curbside pickup, and then, they might do all of this very fragmented, one-to-one, and then you end up with all of these silos. You don't have consistent, even reporting across all of these different channels, and you end up with more problems, again, being compounded because you kind of did something in a reactionary way, or, maybe something wasn't built, that great. Maybe you bought some things, partnered for others, built some of your own, and it just, again, doesn't give you the same kind of capabilities across all of those different modes. And so because of that, what's happened is you end up with this kind of Frankenstein, multi-pieces pulled together that don't give you this kind of unified internal, right, kind of reporting and analytics around how are my channels actually performing. But then also that customer experience can start to become very disjointed and fragmented, and that same, banner, that same brand is now, delivering an inconsistent experience. And so from, our position, really seeing, some of the retailers that have struggled with this and being able to have that kind of unified, comprehensive strategy really gives them an advantage in the market. But then they're also seeing it from, there are these other benefits that start to come up. One is, being able to better allocate resources, right, to higher value projects. Just reporting and analytics. We work with some companies that have teams of 10, 15 analysts that are really logging into disparate systems, downloading reporting, and then trying to make sense of it, right, across all of these different siloed solutions. And so it just becomes one of those things where, again, it's good enough in many cases, but it's not actually going to be able to be sustainable long term. And so that becomes, again, its own problem. And so as the retailer continues to look at and build their portfolio of these channels, being able to have that flexibility and agility, but then, again, kind of that consistent experience is really important. So I talked earlier about, kind of the benefits of having, a parent company like UPS, and that is that we get to make these kinds of bets, right? And that is, if we go back even 15 years, a TMS or a WMS might not have even been known, right? The components existed, right? Like today, when we talk about an order management system, we now pretty much are all aligned around, okay, yeah, that's what should be as part of an OMS. But when you think about omnichannel and all of these disparate, components of that, it doesn't exist as a category, right? Like Gartner doesn't have a magic quadrant on, omnichannel experience. So when we think about it in the sense that, having the ability to manage an order through some of these multiple modes, be able to report and analyze performance across all of them. And then when you think about being able to spin something up really quickly as a response to a shift in the market, there's a lot of inherent value in kind of having that flexibility. So for us, it is this kind of new category that exists. And so when we talk about the product a little later, we can go into more detail there, but there are some kind of baked in advantages, but this omnichannel experience management concept is really what we're seeing more interest in, but also we're really experiencing the pain, right, on behalf of our customers. And so for us, this kind of multi-carrier, kind of agnostic view of the world, so that, again, however our customer, the retailer, wants to make a solution available to their customers, to the end consumer, is how do we kind of tie all of these different solutions together, but then do it kind of in this kind of broad enough way that even companies, let's say, that have their own private fleet of vehicles, but then others that just want to use third party, others that are only not even thinking about shipping from stores because they don't have physical stores, right? So like, how can we make sure that any type of retailer kind of has the benefit of this approach regardless, right? Like, it's not something that is kind of an all or nothing solution. It's all built on microservices, and it kind of gives you that ability to say, hey, we have a curbside solution that we spun up. It works great, keep it, right? Like, it can run in parallel with some of these other solutions and fulfillment modes that your customers are now, expecting. So, kind of thinking about, right, like these experiences that your customer is expecting, and then being able to kind of offer that same unified experience, whether that's mobile app, your website, offering things like same-day delivery, even drones, whenever those become a thing, is kind of still something that would be kind of included in that strategy. So getting the products out, being able to bring them back in, and then having that consistent communication to the customer is kind of all part of the same solution. So again, with this, our approach is through this single integration. So we typically connect to the order management system. We have partnered with companies like IBM Sterling and Manhattan Active Omni and Salesforce and other large retail technology providers, so that once we integrate and we get those orders, then we're now saving a bunch of time for our customer. And then when you look at the kind of plethora of choices out there, from shipping carriers as well as same-day carriers and lockers and all these other things, we handle all of that as well, right? So that kind of one connection to us gets you access to everything out there. Again, we'll go into some examples of that. The orchestration that we do, so being able to, again, do simple things like rate shopping, be able to understand some of the complexities around, a consumer experience where maybe they selected 2-day shipping, but we know that customer is actually 15 miles away from the brick and mortar store where the item's going to be shipped. So look, we could send it ground, get it there probably earlier for less cost, or maybe we could dispatch this to a same-day provider, get it to the customer and delight them, but still do it for less than what the shipping cost is going to be. So those types of examples, and being able to do that at scale is really a big part of what we want to do. And then having less integrations to manage, right? So we have customers that maybe are live with DoorDash, but they don't know how well one particular carrier is performing, or how are we doing in the Las Vegas market compared to Dallas, Fort Worth, compared to Indianapolis, right? So they don't have kind of that context, that ability to understand, where are we lacking? Where do we have a lower percentage of on-time delivery? Where are we, not delivering on our approach or our kind of goals of a customer experience? And so being able to tie all that together. So it's a very kind of, quantitative view, right? We try to get to that real, what is the quantifiable value that's being realized? And then we do that through, again, resources, actual orchestration savings through things like rate shopping, as well as the time and motion studies that we'll sometimes do to understand, it takes X amount of resources to do this today, and then here's the value of an automated solution that can handle that. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Brett, and he'll talk a little bit more about our product.
So getting to the buildup of what we were talking about, what is delivery solutions, and we've kind of outlined that. OXM, Omnichannel Experience Management. This next slide, I'm going to warn you, you're going to want to take a picture. It's a lot to take in, but I want to get everybody a chance to get their camera ready. This is the full suite of what we do, and this is what you get access to with a single integration. So in an effort to make this a little bit interactive, show of hands, is anybody in the audience currently working on or have on your roadmap for the future implementing some of these things or discussing some of these things, returns, logistics, anybody that has, you've had meetings about it? Or so anyways, I'm pointing that out to say this is what you get access to, and I'm going to kind of go through some of this. If you've taken a picture, you can digest this at your own speed, but this is us as a hub, a middleware, if you will, through that single integration. Everything that you see there in white is now configurable. Something to keep in mind is this is a la carte, so you don't have to come in and work with us, integrate with us, and then take all of this at once. You can start in bite-sized pieces if you're just interested in the post-purchase communication piece. You want to communicate with your customers via text, thank you for your order. Here's a link to track your package, and then you can watch the driver on the app there. I fall for that every time. I'll sit there and watch that until, I just see he's 10 stops away, 8 stops away. I get excited. And so anyways, we have that ability. And again, a la carte, the solution gives you new access to this through that single integration. Some of the stuff down in the yellow down below is what the platform is capable of. So some of the other stuff, and I'll just kind of go high level through it. We deal in an API, being able to make the OMS more intelligent, that e-commerce experience. We can populate stuff on. If you go through, there's a slide here coming up with some of the people that we're working with currently. If you were to go to their websites and you were to put some of their products into the cart, and then what populates after that, showing you what's possible through us communicating back and forth. We make that more rich, a better user experience to say, hey, you can get this same day, or showing what's available at what stores. You can drill down by store, drill down by product. It's all laid across your orchestration, your business rules, those if-then statements, if you will. And so we can populate that for the e-commerce experience. And again, portal, looking at microservice modules, so we integrate, we're carrier agnostic. Even though we're owned by UPS, we work with hundreds of carriers, just being able to put it on the one that makes sense for the customer. Me dealing in partnerships, I get to have that conversation a lot with UPS, but yeah, we have a fine line there. We're firewalled by design, just so that we're still doing our business at the core there. Orchestration is one of the big pieces that we bring to the table. Again, those if-then statements, to where you're able to put your business rules across these products to make sure things are moving in a way that can be cheaper, or in the returns scenario, dealing with customers, there's sometimes that there are different SKUs that they don't want back. They're not have a high value, or they tend to break. You can lay that and define all that with the orchestration. Analytics, how are the carriers doing? What are the demand patterns? That sort of thing. You can get pretty granular in a lot of this. Smart boundaries, if you're wanting to see, the in-store pickup. I don't know if any of you have ever done groceries to where you go to pick up your groceries, you put it all online. I do this all the time. I get excited making a list of food. And then, I go to pick it up. They have the ability to see where I am on the map, and once I hit a certain boundary, knowing when I'm getting close, so they can have that stuff ready. And then order visibility alerts, Smart windows, again, being able to say, deliveries certain times, being able to populate information. There's a lot to take in and ingest here, just keeping in mind that it is a la carte. And then hosted tracking pages, and that, again, was the thing I mentioned earlier. If you've used, an Amazon or you order something, you watch the driver on the screen there. We have the ability to make that a seamless experience from the moment that the customer clicks buy all the way to delivery, to where it's branded as the retailer, and it's that seamless experience to where if they want to see where their package is at, they want to see where the driver's at, they want to communicate with the driver, we want to get feedback from that customer, it's all branded as the retailer. And again, driving that brand loyalty for the customer, that is the demand out there, is what people are wanting. So again, this is kind of a little bit of a remake of a slide we had earlier, but this is where we fit in. And it's kind of drilling down on some more of those offerings that we have. But again, we tie into the OMS. We're not inventory aware, so we rely on them to give us where the inventory is, and then tying in. We're not looking to replace anything. We are a middleware, a hub, if you will, to go in there, because a lot of times people are hesitant to, they think we're making a switch. We're something new that is coming in a different middleware, if you will. So I'm not going to read all these to you. You guys have seen these in different slides, but just kind of going into some more detail on what some of these things that people are looking for. The reason why a lot of people come to conferences like this is to help solve some of these problems that you may be experiencing in your omnichannel, and these are just these options kind of more well-defined. Here's some of the people that we're working with currently. And so it's going to mean different things to different people depending on what industry you're in. But some of the ones that I like to point out there, if you look at the top middle under wine experiences, Total Wine, which is where we got our start. And if you think about the complexities and the compliance that needs to be there in order to ship alcohol, that's how we got our start, was being able to, with those orchestration rules, to be able to iron that out for them and figure that out. So I like to point out Total Wine. And then also one, I mentioned earlier, if you go to some of our customers' websites and look at that user experience there that we're helping populate, Michael's is a good example there. If you go there, put something in the cart and see what happens, it shows you what's available in terms of when it's going to get there, what's available. And again, that's all configurable by orchestration down to the store. And also, while you are in your operations, you can make it by store, you can make it by employee with different permissions, single sign-on, and all that thing. So it's very configurable and easy to work with in that regard. Here's a look at, not all, but some of our carriers that we're working with. So connectivity and orchestration are big for us. Connectivity is showing you that any mode is a possibility. So again, we have a lot that we work with. This allows speed to market to be able to go in and be able to work with any of these out of the box. Obviously, you still have to go, and have a relationship with them for negotiations and all that for rates. We do have an offering as well for a program that we do have some pass-through rates that we're able to provide just an unlimited number of carriers. But speed to market is key here. And the other thing is future-proofing, your operations to where if there's a new carrier that you want to add or there's one here, then you don't have to go do that integration work again. So we offer that ability for you to be not only efficient in that you're not paying for more integration time and more IT resources to manage that integration, but if there's somebody that makes sense for us to go do that integration work so you could continue to grow your business, we'll take on that cost and time to do so. And then going to turn it back over to Justin here to kind of go over some of our case studies as well.
Yeah, so this is, we don't always have permission to use logos or to actually, report on some of this, so we try to be, cautiously vague. But one of the challenges with this beauty products retailer was they had started to do some same day on their own, and some of the challenge was they had one single provider, right? So by being single-threaded, again, they didn't know how are we performing, right? Like, does this actually, are we doing well? And so one of the specific challenges was cancellation rates, and what that is, if you've ever ordered an Uber yourself, where someone says that they're coming and then they cancel, right? Then you, right? It's kind of back on you. Then you then have to, reinitiate. In some cases, right? I think they've gotten better at this in terms of we'll automatically find something different. But that experience is the same with us, right? So a gig provider could, get an order, accept it, but then cancel. Well, then we can self-heal, right? We can automatically retry. We can move down the list to other providers. So kind of being able to do that, and then improving some of those capabilities so that the volume, right, was shifting to providers that had less of that, was able to help them recover over $600,000 in revenue. Some of the shipping costs, right? So being able to rate shop, being able to, again, kind of take the details of the order and some of the unique attributes, and do that actual rate shopping in real time, be able to provide the lowest cost partner. And then, so saving $2 an order at that particular volume in one quarter. And so what was interesting, and one of the other things that we learned that, from a software cost, right, like we were well below, a percentage, 1%, right, of kind of the total cost. But being able to quickly launch this across 600 stores, being able to generate $100 million in revenue. So this was actual revenue that, wasn't, or maybe these were going to be shipped before, but having that amount of revenue that quickly from a program that they had just tested in limited markets with one provider is significant, right? So now there's a lot of eyes on it. So being able to leverage, more investment, being able to get higher visibility within the company so that e-commerce team now has a lot of additional resource capabilities to help them drive new projects. So we can talk about some of these. So again, we have a few, but also like in the time remaining, if anyone's interested, we can also do like a Q&A session. So I feel like I'm just talking at you, which isn't always great. Well, I come from Louisiana, and in my very first sales job, someone said, "Tellin' ain't selling," and so that kind of always rings in the back of my head with regard to like just talking at people. Like, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job of that. But happy to answer any questions. Happy to go through in more detail. I can keep going through slides. Anybody have a question? Anthony can bring a mic to you. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Yeah. All right. Okay. The people have spoken. This particular retailer, one of the interesting challenges that they faced was they had started off with marketplaces. So in the grocery space, Instacart and DoorDash Instacart and Shipt, I guess DoorDash too to some extent, have done a good job of taking a market where there were limited resources, and some of you can probably remember where you couldn't go buy or build a grocery order, right, at your favorite grocery store directly, right? Like they just didn't, you might have like product catalog, but there wasn't the ability to actually transact and to, select items and put them in your cart. So Instacart and Shipt came along and they really solved that problem, right? Like they became the e-commerce component, and some of that, comes with some exclusivity. Some of it also comes with, being more tightly aligned with providers so that, it gave the grocers time to actually start investing in some of these capabilities themselves, right? So obviously the market is great and the customer, experience is great, and they were able to leverage that. Now, a lot of these grocers are trying to figure out how do we actually do this ourselves, right? How do we go direct to our customer? So same thing happens in other retail segments in that, there are the DoorDash and these other marketplaces, right? So Amazon has one, right? Amazon today. So like I can give some inventory to this other channel, but that channel, that marketplace is what's marketing, right? Like I can go buy Petco dog food from DoorDash, and DoorDash can deliver it to me, but it's not necessarily that same kind of direct Petco experience. So they had evaluated different marketplaces. They kind of knew that there was demand for same-day delivery of certain items. So in their case, it was actually smart in the sense that they understood the SKUs that were, having high demand. They were able to learn a lot. And then they kind of shifted to, okay, now we can go direct and we have this knowledge. They still run the marketplaces, right? Which is great, right? Again, omnichannel, you gotta be everywhere to sell your products. And so, from them, it was the lack of visibility, the lack of reporting, the lack of that direct customer experience that they really wanted to take over. So for us, right, we were able to give them access to more providers. Again, they had done one single integration. We're able to get access to more. We were able to do that really quickly, so they actually went live in 6 weeks. They started seeing a higher average order value, so through those direct customers, so the sales made through the marketplaces versus their own direct e-commerce experience. And then, again, we talked about the lack of reporting, or at least limited reporting. You're not getting reporting from, some of these marketplaces, right? Like, it's their data, they want to keep it. They might share some things, but, our customers tell us that it's a very difficult experience to try and pry some of that valuable data away from them. So by being able to have access to that, what was interesting was being able to kind of look at the overview, right? So getting live at hundreds of stores, generating a significant amount of revenue in their first year, seeing a 2% conversion rate increase through the orders through their website. Again, not necessarily those that we're selecting same day. And then identifying demand. So one of the reports that we look at is, where are consumers showing an interest, but maybe you don't offer a capability to them, right? So in this particular case, we saw a bunch of traffic from Puerto Rico. They did not have their program live in Puerto Rico, and immediately were able to uncover significant value by just turning it on, right? All the work was done, the order flow was already there, the carriers were, or the delivery providers were already there, so they were able to quickly, take advantage of that pin-up demand that they weren't aware had been trying and not being successful in purchasing there. So another example of this is a department store chain, so operating in the Southeast United States. So they were really, spending a bunch of their own time and resources in building out some of their integrations with different delivery partners. They were really trying to kind of completely overhaul their tech stack. So what the challenge for them was, we want to have same-day delivery capabilities in certain markets. We need to be able to do this relatively quickly and for lower cost. So you'll see a theme, right? So kind of some of the problems that we solved here. And so because they had limited SKUs available, they weren't able to generate as much revenue. And then the customer experience was very fragmented. They had a bunch of, deliveries not being done on time because they didn't have the right visibility into the data to manage some of those delivery partners. So, kind of fast forward, and then, so they were able to not only save a bunch of money on the development costs that they had already planned and budgeted, by the way, they were able to spend that money more efficiently. Again, that higher average order value, once they made more products eligible, and then that 99.8% on-time delivery percentage really led to a higher customer satisfaction, higher NPS score, and then obviously more repeat business. So when you look at some of the challenges that again most every customer has faced is, we've done some initial testing, we know that this is valuable, but again, that struggle with how do we actually do this at scale, do it rapidly, when our own resources are limited. And then just one more example. So this was a customer primarily operating in the U.S., but they have international stores. We started off, looking at just the U.S., and so they have multiple brands. So we were able to, as part of their omnichannel experience, their demographic really skews younger. And so, like, I know Brett talked about Michaels, right? Like, my wife loves Michaels. I go pick up orders from Michaels all the time. There's a certain demographic, right, associated with Michaels versus this particular brand. So the consumer experience and just again, we talked about the consumer expectation and how so many of them are tied to, this kind of instant economy, right? Kind of getting things whenever I want them, however I want them. This brand needed to deliver on that because that's who their customer is, but the reality was they were lagging really far behind. So being able to, again, kind of get them live in the US and in the UK for multiple brands. When we started to look at the costs that they were experiencing, their shipping costs were much higher than they needed to be, right? So as a percentage of the revenue, it just didn't make sense. So they were literally at a point of, should we just not even, offer this? And so we were able to, through some, kind of detailed business rules and really kind of getting to the heart of the issue, be able to provide more complexity, but make it simple for them in the sense of how can we save more money on this? So across their order volume, right, we're able to save almost $5 per order in terms of, again, how we were selecting carriers. And then while they're had notoriously been relatively slow in like the pick and pack time, right? So how long is it taking us to get an order ready? Maybe some of that is that the demographics of the employees in the stores are also the same. No, I'm just kidding. That was my millennial joke. I'll get over it. And so when you look at, once they had more visibility, then they were able to work with store operations to actually increase the process, or change the processes rather, so that they could be more efficient in getting those items, getting those orders picked, getting them packed and ready to go. And so that then allowed them to deliver faster, which obviously led to better customer experience. So, different challenges in some instances, but I think a lot of them, again, the recurring theme had been, resource constraints, not having the ability or the time and prioritization around integrating with all of the different, endpoints and the third parties that are out there. And then, overall being able to kind of realize those savings through not only benefits of the platform, but then also just better resource allocation and keeping their resources tied to projects that matter more to their business and really, kind of how they're fulfilling things and moving through this omnichannel world gives them a lot more flexibility and long-term scalability. And as Brett said earlier, kind of that future-proof approach where, like no matter what comes up along the way, they kind of have access to be able to take advantage of that. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So if you want to spam us, you can. Happy to, again, answer any questions. The clock is ticking. We've got 2.5 minutes left, so happy to spend that time answering things. Again, Anthony really wants to take the microphone to someone. No? All right, well, we can give you 2.5 minutes back to your day. Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.